morning, ladies and gentlemen. Ben Cominos here. Happy Wednesday, June 24th, to everybody listening. Hopefully, you're having a fantastic start to your morning. I know I absolutely am. We have quite a bit of news to get into with all of you guys today, and I'm very excited to do so. Um, I've been having a heck of a day today, that's for sure. I had a friend of mine let me know, in case you're wondering what you're missing in a different version of news, um, ABC News report says all the foreigners love America so much because our burgers are so big. So, looks like all the anti-American sentiment has been in people's heads, and it's not actually a real thing. Who could have possibly imagined that? Absolutely laughing at that, but what are you going to do about things? Shout out to all you guys. Like I said, this isn't going to be a layoff show today. This is going to be a classic show, but the outreach has continued to pour in. I quite literally have answered more than 300 unique messages from people across the Fox Valley, across Wisconsin, realistically, all across this country. And good morning to everybody reaching out through all the apps right now. I appreciate you guys very much. Um, it quite literally hasn't stopped. Like, I have an agenda of things I need to get done. Um, and I didn't get any of it done yesterday because after this show wrapped up, I was responding to you guys for quite literally 5 hours straight, then went to the flock meeting, then did my nighttime show, and then went back to responding to you guys for another 3 hours. And if I didn't respond to you, don't take that personally. I clearly I've been inundated from all angles. Like, I have people sending me new graphics. They're reaching out to me about free studio equipment. Telling me about opportunities to get my show put other places. And like, it gets to the point where I know there was some stuff that I really wanted to um remember and bookmark. I'm like, now where did they actually message me that? And so I am just inundated right now. So I'm trying to work through this new process here. But seriously though, it's been awesome. And I have to say, I'm very excited to start this show off with you. Again, if you haven't seen my tease, congressional candidate for the 6th District of Wisconsin, Brad Smith, is going to be on the program today from 10:30 until probably the end of the show at 11, although we really didn't hammer out an end time, but I figure we'll probably carry that pretty close to the end there. And to be perfectly frank, I have a ton of questions for him. I think he's going to have some great info, but I really do appreciate that his campaign manager reached out to me, let me know he heard that I got laid off, and said that based on you guys, based on the reaction in the community to what ended up taking place, he still thinks that this venue is worth coming on and talking about his policy. So, despite the fact that we're not on FCC airwaves anymore, it still very much is going to reach a lot of you guys across the Fox Valley. So, I'm very excited about that. Welcome up, Michelle. Michelle's one of the OG listeners since day one. First time on the Tube of You. I can't actually say the real name because then TikTok censors me. I have to call it the Book of Faces, and I have to call it the Tube of You. We cannot escape surveillance no matter where we go, and that's actually going to be the theme for the first half hour. Um, I see, Susan, you said start up a community page. That's not a terrible idea. Let me grab my notes here really quickly as I'm still working out the kinks and all of this stuff here. But that's not a terrible idea. I actually do have a community page on Discord. I don't know if I can say that or not. I need to figure out how to get you guys, because I know a lot of you guys would absolutely love being part of that Discord channel. I need to talk to my people. They're on TikTok right now with me. I need to talk to my people about what that looks like. But so I do technically have a community page set up with a ton of people that are interested in the show, and I'm just over the moon with all the reaction. I actually had an old friend of mine reach out a few moments ago and say Cominos is the new Colbert. And while you guys know, I was not thrilled with Colbert on the late night show, but I loved the Colbert Report. Um, they I appreciate the comparison. I'm not saying that that's why I bounced, but the fact that anyone even looks at it that way, I appreciate that. But so let's get into the news of the day. And if someone who has access to the Discord chat channel link can put it in the YouTube chat, that would be huge for me, and Facebook for that matter. And I apologize. Shout out to Justin for giving me a 27-inch monitor that I'm going to be plugging into my laptop. So I'll be 4 screens deep, hopefully by Monday. Um, and then I'm going to actually be able to interact with the Facebook chat as well. Unfortunately, I can only do two, and it's YouTube and TikTok right now, but we will still be live on Facebook all those times. And for the record, I do go back and read everything you guys said after the fact. And if you guys can hook up the people in the TikTok chat as well, looking for the link too, that would be great. Oh, Justin, I met Justin yesterday at the flock camera meeting. So let's start there, shall we? I went to my second flock camera meeting, and you know what's awesome is there were more cameras there, ironically enough, in a good way, for this hearing than the one that was 3 Tuesdays ago that I talked about on my show when I went that time. There were even more people. For those of you that weren't there for the first edition of this meeting, there were about 35 people there. I'd say probably 15 to 20 of them stood up to speak. I count myself among them, as did a couple of the people in my life as well that I went with. And for those of you that remember, you might remember the chief of the Neenah police, Chief Olson, said, well, you guys represent a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the town of Neenah. So why would, like, we're not going to change our opinion based on you guys, despite the fact that if like 30 more people showed up, there probably would have been a fire marshal that showed up and like had to shut the thing down because it was a fire hazard. The mayor of Neenah, Mayor Borchardt, said after the hearing was over, oh, it was basically an echo chamber. Meanwhile, it's me, my Francesca Hong progressive ass decked out in rainbow bracelets, standing next to a gentleman in a Fox Valley Libertarian shirt. There was a guy there yesterday who said, I heard from the ACLU and I hate the ACLU. And then he went on to keep talking. And I was like, okay, that guy and I probably don't agree on a lot. And he actually came up to me after the fact, shook my hand, and said the same. He's like, I think I don't agree with you on anything politically, and I'm honored to share this moment with you right now. And I said, I'm right there with you, man. We got to push back against this. But so they downplayed our um, attitudes a couple of weeks ago. So I'll be frank. I showed up. There were more people this time. I'd say it was over 40, probably closer to 50 this time. Over 20 people showed up or stood up to speak easily. And if you didn't get a chance to listen to my nighttime live, you could tell the way that I was talking. I was jazzed. Like, and I said this last night, and I'll say it again. I don't want to downplay anything, because there were a lot of hard stories there as well to listen to about people that were survivors of, I can't say it because of TikTok, but they survived certain kinds of activities with their spouse, or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever the situation is, and the way they ended up becoming part of the police force. One person actually said one member who assaulted her was part of the Winnebago County Sheriff's Department. That's her claim. I can't corroborate that, but if you would have saw how that woman was shaking during her speech, I thought all the tears had flown out of me yesterday because of all you people. And sure enough, I had a couple more to give while I was there, because holy hell was it difficult to listen to. But by and large, the energy was so high. At one point, and it's I knew when I saw it, because I have the eye for that kind of stuff. And I thank you for all the gifts on TikTok, guys. I appreciate you very much. Um, One woman stood up and she looked at all of us behind her and she said, quietly, anybody who's standing behind me that is here against the installation of flock cameras, please stand up. And all but 3 people stood up. And actually, 2 of the people that didn't stand up got up to leave after that happened, because I think it was clear at that point exactly why it was happening. I actually went up and I actually have some witnesses to this as well in the chat. I called out Borchardt and Chief Olson to their face. I said, back when I was employed, I sent emails to both of them to come on the program and explain why almost 40 people showing up and expressing their concern doesn't shift the dial. I asked Borchardt to explain why he would call us an echo chamber when quite obviously we agree on nothing else other than we should not be hyper surveilled by these flock cameras. And I looked them dead in the eyes and I said, by the way, I'm still live on all the different social medias. So if you guys want to address the things that I'm asking you here, please feel free to come on the show. Carla on TikTok was there and she said it was epic and inspiring. I appreciate that very much. I was feeling it. We had other people go up there and talk about end-to-end encryption. We had one woman who was a data analyst for the Air Force talking to you about the behind the scenes that goes on in in end-to-end encryption, in surveillance, and telling you why exactly what Flock is doing as a problem. Every single person coming up there with a different reason. And by the way, the person who spoke to us in favor of Flock yesterday, rather than sending the police chief up there, who, as I highlighted in the last meeting, would defer to the fact that he was not a tech person. And then we were all asking tech questions. And he's like, well, I'm not a tech person. I can't answer that. Well, we're like, okay, how about you get a tech person to come here and answer that for us? So yesterday, we show up and there's two people from Flock there. One of them is a fucking sales rep, which I used to sell software, and you know what my line was? Um, you know, I'm over 100% of quota. I sell software, but I'll be damned if I know how it actually works. No software sales rep actually knows how it works. You have tech people that come with you on the sales calls. And this is actually a true story. I'd be sitting in the lobby waiting to meet CEOs to close $1 million deals. And the tech people be standing next to me. And I'm a very outgoing guy. I understand, the decorum in public spaces. And I would look at them and I'd be like, all right, we're about to meet the guy that runs the company. When you see him, I'm going to need you to stand up, look him in the eye, shake his hand, and say your name. And I swear to God, if I didn't say that, that was never going to happen. Those are the people that answer the tech questions, all right? It's not the people like me. I'm here to tell you, fuck that tech. I got a bad feeling about that. And it's like a vibe. Those are the people that are like, oh no, this is bad. And let me explain exactly in detail. Or this is good if you can back it up. This is good. This is why it's supposed to work that way. They send a sales rep and a public relations person to come and talk to us. And they really didn't have much more information than when the police chief did. And we outright caught this man, the sales rep, in lies. And the best part about all of it is that just like the first time, there is no coordination. I have a couple of friends that were there, and there's probably about a half or dozen or so people that I met literally at the last Flock meeting, and we're kind of building a relationship around being anti-surveillance, but didn't know each other before these moments. And yet, we show up, and it just so happens that every one of us had a different factoid or input or life story where we could discount something they were saying as like, oh, well, we know this is obviously bullshit. The one I specifically debunked was he said, this is going to monitor license plates and that's it. Meanwhile, their competitor has gone on the record. It's been reported by 404 Media that their new software now can track chips, the semiconductor chips in your phone, in your cars, if you put them in your pets. There were a handful of other examples of Weller where they put them, and there is quite literally a face surveillance mode. And they're like, oh no, don't worry, we don't have that switched on. Okay, hold on a second. So the capacity for you to monitor us and be able to scan our face and know exactly who we are and follow us to all these different places is already included in the goddamn software. You just haven't turned it on. And you're like, nah, trust me, bro. Trust me, bro. We're not gonna switch this this little switch here from off to on. What could you possibly think we could do that? Never mind the fact that we just watched about a dozen people or so in Minnesota get sentenced more aggressively than people who are found guilty of sexual assault in a predictive manner for exhibiting Antifa like characteristics. But nah, don't worry, dog. We're not gonna put the face surveillance on the cameras. Yes, it's already there, but we're not going to flip the switch. How many of you guys trust that right now? I almost said the phone number. That's hilarious. Oh, by the way, let's actually do this. I figured out how to do this yesterday. If you're listening on YouTube, this will be a YouTube perk for right now. I'm copying a link into the comments right now. If you use that link, it'll put you backstage. And if you have something you want to say about this, just follow that link and I'd be happy to bring you on the show. This is going to be the interim way that we do phone calls until I can get this voiceover IP thing to work out here. But I just threw a StreamYard link in the YouTube chat. So anybody who wants to jump on board and has thoughts about what's going on here, we'll do it just like you're a caller on the old show. So go ahead and jump on there, and thank you for the follow, Lauren, on TikTok. I appreciate you being here, and I see all these comments. I'm really good at doing the comments in the night live. Let's just pick a random one here. So much for our newly elected mayor saying that he would listen to the constituents of Neenah. That lasted long enough to get elected. Pathetic. That's coming from Sharon. Yeah, it's not a good look. And I looked him dead in the eye when I called him out for calling us an echo chamber, and he smirked. Like he knew. He knew. And I sent him an email the day after the meeting and called him out for that as well, that he never answered. Um, Unfortunately. Um, there's a lot to be frustrated about with what took place there. We got our first person here jumping on. How do I bring you upstage here, Chris? Bang, what are your thoughts? Were you at the meeting yesterday, or what are your thoughts on surveillance?
How you doing? Yes, can you hear me?
I can. How are you?
Excellent. Yes, it was wonderful to meet you yesterday. I was the big fat guy who came up to you yesterday, and you
Yeah.
mentioned just now who, politically we probably don't agree on anything, but at least we can unify regarding this danger here. Um, yeah, I'm also the one that said that I had gotten some quotes that I mentioned on the at the meeting from the ACLU, and
Yeah.
like I said, technically didn't say I hated the ACLU. I just
Yes.
said that I haven't been a big fan of them for the past
Sure.
20 or 30 years. But they had a lot of very good information, especially considering, and most really frightening is that the flock people are advertising and promoting some sort of turnkey feature that can use sort of like a predictive sort of AI thing, taking a look at people and where they go, where, with whom they associate, what cars are nearby, etc. And if that's not tracked, we don't track cars, we don't, okay, then how do you make those connections if you can't do it? And this is not just within towns, this is across states as well. So just wanted to hop on, say thank you very much for, agreeing to speak with me for a couple of minutes. Best of luck on your new show, and I'll be listening every once in a while. And
Don't leave just yet. Don't leave
okay.
just yet. I do want to say, first of all, you're not that big and fat. Second of all,
Okay, then you need your eyes checked. Okay, I saw the videos. Trust me.
second of all, there's people in my TikTok chat right now that probably don't agree with you on a lot either, saying that you were a very eloquent speaker and very well put together when you were speaking, and they appreciated what you had to say. And third of all, this entire show, even when I was paid to do it up until Monday, has always been predicated on the the idea that people like you and I agree on a whole hell of a lot more than we realize, and it's just a matter of this kind of dialogue getting to the bottom of it. So, I mean, you're literally the second person who's ever chimed in like this on my new show, and you're exactly who I want on this program. So I hope you'll keep listening, and I appreciate you for chiming in and sharing your thoughts.
Yes, thank you very much. The people in TikTok, very kind. And like I said, very wonderful to meet you. And I will be sure to listen in when I can.
Right on, my man. You take it easy. I'm figuring out how to kick you out now. I don't want to
That's fine.
ban you. I don't want to ban you. There we go. Remove from stage. There we go. Almost picked ban him. We're learning here. It's a process. What was the thing? I'm learning to fly the plane like while I'm flying the plane. Looks like we got a second person here that's looking to chime in. Let's add you to the stage. Oh, Alex, my favorite. How are you?
Good. How are you? Can you hear me
Uh,
good?
yeah, you're perfect. You're perfect. Alex was at the
Cool.
hearing as well. She actually is the one I intentionally wanted to go up after her because she had me so ready to whoop an ass after her, what she had to say that I was ready to go. So what's on your mind?
Well, I think that there were a couple of really good points to take away from what our alderman said yesterday, specifically the language that they chose to really prioritize during the meeting, especially coming from the alderman in the peach shirt, who I still haven't learned his name, sorry.
Sure.
But uh, especially with the highlighting of how the city really didn't ask many questions after it was brought up. What a massive ask it is for them to be our data holders, to have their constituents in the numbers of thousands to hold their private information. And it kind of seemed like they were shocked to find out that part of their husbandry in this contract included that. It seemed like they were a little unaware of that. So I think that people really should keep in mind too that language is very, very important in how contracts are written up, are worded in a way that they're not supposed to be really easy to understand at a glance.
Yeah.
And our aldermen are people too, they are also fallible to sales pitches. They, they're human, which is why it's just as important to focus on not only the people in your community who think like you, but also the people who represent you. Because even though Brian and he represents my district, we might disagree on a lot of things. I feel like I could still have a productive conversation with him about these things if I just take the time out of my day to actually do so. And I think that people in Neenah are starting to get less and less afraid of actually going up to their neighbor and speaking to one another. And that's why we're seeing such a massive change in just general decorum of the community. I feel
Yeah.
like people are definitely wanting to speak out a lot more about things that matter to them, like the social services for anyone who might be unhoused in our community. Even though last year, when it was brought to the attention of everyone at City Council that someone passed away while they were unhoused under a bridge here in Neenah due to the extreme temperatures. After he left, nobody spoke on it. I do believe that Chief Olson made the comment that, oh yeah, we've got a couple of people in the community, but we keep contact with them and we make sure like everybody's good. There's nothing to worry about. Just kind of dusted it off. We really need to get to a point where we're holding, again, these conversations with the people who are in the positions to put them in place and making sure that we let them know, yes, we do want overnight housing for those who don't have a place to go in the middle of winter, because last year we had a week of -degree winter. Like it's not feasible to say that you want a safe community and you're going to do that by putting up cameras.
Or just even to kind of tie the two stories together here, we had, I believe, I don't want to assume anything, but I believe they were a trans person that went up and spoke, and they talked about their experience as a homeless individual, and when they were propositioned by an officer who had been using these cameras to kind of keep tabs on them, their encampment, that, to use their own words, had been unmolested for over a year. they come back to find it completely brutalized once they showed a little bit of pushback to what they were being asked there. And it kind of shows you how this all works. I don't know if you saw the Minnesota story. We just watched 12 people essentially get it's Minority Report stuff. 12 people were accused of being Antifa for wearing black and espousing anti-ICE slogans, and they just got more jail time that people are convicted of different types of assault.
Oh, the Prairie
Um,
Land 19, is that what you're
yeah, I
referencing?
believe
Okay,
so.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
And so you see that taking place over there, and you see them trying to convince us that this isn't going to be used to monitor whatever population. I mean, I'm a tea leaves guy. I've been doing this show for almost 4 years, and when there's an affordability crisis, a housing crisis, a debt crisis, no one's doing anything to address it, and they're putting up cameras and building detention centers and data centers everywhere. I know where that's heading. Like, we all know what the end game is there, and they're trying to convince us that we're conspiracy theorists. And like, we are not. I'm from a city. I'm from Pittsburgh. I've seen crime. I've seen and I wouldn't advocate for these cameras in Pittsburgh. The idea that Neenah or Oshkosh or Appleton or Little or Grand Chute or any of these places are some kind of cesspools of violence and crime is a laughable assertion.
It really is. It especially when you think about the fact that well, I myself, I used to live in California in Los Angeles, and
Okay.
I got to be part of the lucky few who got to experience LA with no smog. I actually, the first time I ever visited Skid Row, it was a beautiful, bright, sunny day, and everybody was out walking around. It was just, it was so like it I was godsmacked. Like, I could not believe that my entire life growing up in small town Wisconsin and then living a little bit in Minnesota in the Twin Cities beforehand, I was like, golly gee, yeah, I guess, the cities are just trash. This is just what you got to expect. But then you go to somewhere where they actually have social services, programs that are meant to help people who need help. And you see, oh, wow, this actually can work cohesively, and these people can get better at their own pace, like we're seeing with the sanctuary in Green Bay right now. But we're not putting any of our money towards that. Instead, we'd rather have a Dora in Neenah,
Yeah.
so you can walk from bar to bar and drink
Yeah.
on the
No, that was
sidewalk.
such a great,
That's what we
yeah.
need to do.
You absolutely nailed that, and I think you're 100% spot on with that.
Well,
Alex,
that's
did
why
you?
Mark Ellis was not happy with me, was because I didn't realize he was sitting in the room when I made that comment about endorsing drinking in public parks. He said that last year, and you can watch it on
Oh yeah.
the video.
Oh yeah. No, I absolutely loved it. But Alex, I appreciate you chiming in. Were you listening to this show before today?
No, no, I was not. I was not.
Awesome. Well, you caught it at a great time. Now we can cuss.
Good.
Fuck, fuck. So we'll see you
Oh,
later.
thank God, dude. I was so nervous up there because I wanted to be myself so bad. And I'm
Yeah.
from Stockbridge, so I don't know if you know anything about it. I was raised on a farm. I
I
was
feel
born
that.
in a barn, and
Yeah.
that's just how I speak.
Yeah, I
So,
love it. Well, it was great meeting you and Mikey. Tell him I'll be in touch next week. We'll all grab drinks and we'll
yes,
get together.
absolutely. And we'll fix your heat shield too.
Yeah, absolutely lovely. I appreciate you guys. You take it easy.
You as well. Bye bye.
Bye. All right, nailing that. Anybody else wants to chime in, just follow, go find that link. I can't keep sending the link because I have to keep picking up my TikTok phone to do it. Hold on. This is we're getting there, guys. I swear to God, this is only day two. Honestly, the fact that it's going this well, day two, is kind of a testament to my desire to be good at this. I'm reposting the link there. Anybody can follow it, and that puts you backstage. So you won't automatically be brought up, and I can bring you on when I finish making a point here. But please do. I'm interested in anybody's thoughts on the matter. But so. And let me see here. I actually have notes jotted down for today. I want to make sure I don't miss any other parts of what was going on there. Yeah, but so that's basically the rundown of what took place in the final Ben Nation. I love that, Sensei. That might become a thing. Um, the final point that I want to make here and what stuck out to me, and go watch. Every TV network was there. Didn't see anybody from a particular radio station, but thankfully the guy that was showing up to this stuff anyway, unpaid, still is, as he is unpaid. So I'm bringing you guys the news right now. Every TV station was there. Go watch the little, 30-second tidbit that they give you of Sheriff Olson and Mayor Borchardt standing next to each other. Because unlike last time, they were on their back foot. There was no condescension about the number of people that were there, the way that we all kind of, again, we didn't echo one another. The only thing that echoed was that none of us wanted to do that. None of us want the cameras. That was the only echo part. They weren't like that. Go watch it. Not during this show. Don't leave now. But when I'm done, go watch it and you tell me after the fact, during the nighttime show, come back 7 to 8 p.m. You tell me if they seemed confident, if they felt like they had the upper hand. Keep in mind, in Neenah, this is not a conversation about whether or not to install flock cameras. They're already there. It's a matter of, are they going to end the contract now, or do we want to live in a constant state of surveillance until 2028? Like Alex pointed out, everybody's fallible. I was not doing surveillance segments, at least not flock camera segments. I've always been skeptical of surveillance, but not flock camera segments in 2023 and 2024 when these were going up everywhere. But like I oftentimes highlight for you guys, it's a matter of surveillance creep. It's a matter that it's the cameras, it's the data centers, it's the Ring doorbells, it's the Alexas, it's the phones, it's social media, it's all of these things all coalescing around a reality that we almost cannot escape at this point. It's really imperative that people get informed about this and get vocal, because I'm telling you right now, if you are against this, if you're listening to me right now and you're like, well, Ben, I'd love to catch the people doing crimes. If you are listening to me and you don't want to see this happen, get loud, because there were 40 of us in a room compared, well, probably more than that, probably like 45 to 50 if I had to guess, compared to 35 a couple weeks ago. And let's just say the attitude after the meeting was over felt very different this time around than what it felt like last time. So email Mayor Borchardt, call his office, email Police Chief Olson, tell him you heard it from me, tell him the offer still stands to come on, just like these well, not random people. I met both of them yesterday. But I love that they started listening to the show today as a result of that. They have the capacity to do the exact same thing. We'll schedule it out. I have a congressperson, or a potential congressperson, a candidate for Congress, coming on the program at 10:30 today. Make it make it happen. Let's get them on here. Let's get them to answer. No, Fergs, you can also join through TikTok as well. Absolutely. I said it's just different. You guys can all hear each other. You're more than, I only can send the link through YouTube, but if you have thoughts about what you want to say, just send me the thing. And keep in mind that I don't always see it. So everybody just, if you see somebody asking to get on TikTok and I don't see it, just people start messaging me until I notice. But anybody's welcome. What's up, Green Hair's husband? You're awesome. You're an awesome dude, and I'm so happy that we ended up meeting. Ben, look up. Allie wants to join. Where are you at, Allie? I don't see you asking. Oh, there she is. Bang. All right. Allie, what's happening?
Okay, hi, can you hear me?
I can. Yeah, what's up? Let me turn my phone volume up a little bit here so the people on YouTube can hear you. All right, go for it.
Okay, well, I'm nervous, but
You're not. You're good.
so I feel like, at least from someone who's studying forensics in a university setting, sort of stuck learning about the changes of surveillance, because there is a huge, like, we learn about, pre and post 9/11, and then now we have more of the new generational change of into surveillance. And right now, the conversation does not need to revolve around whether or not we need the cameras. We need someone to scan license plates because we do. We will always lose the conversation when it comes to the technology because the technology will be ever changing and will be ever progressive towards what we need it to be, whether it be DNA or whatever. And I think to me, the real debate that needs to be having with people that work at Flock is like, okay, this technology we can get anywhere else. What is different between you and anyone else? And like, what is the issues behind the data collection, not the cameras, because a lot of people talk about how they don't want people seeing them, they don't want tracked. That's going to happen irregardless. I'm sorry to burst everyone's bubble, but the police can see anything you do at any time if they really wanted to. But the issue is the fact that Flock, the company, has the data, and we also don't know what's being done with it.
Yeah. And for the record, like Ali mentioned, she's a regular in my TikTok and Discord chat, and she's studying forensics in my home state, Pennsylvania, and she absolutely knows her shit around this kind of stuff. And I think you're exactly right. And again, there's an element of Luddite to this conversation, right, Ali? I have said I feel like I'm the guy who's mad that cars are getting invented or the internet's getting invented because of the drawbacks to that. Do we need walkable cities anymore? Are we going to do pollution? But realistically, cars and the internet, for all of the drawbacks they have brought with them, have absolutely, in my opinion, made well, I don't even know if it's made it better, but it's definitely, pushed us forward. And fundamentally, that's what America is all about, is pushing forward. And this just seems like another example of that.
Yeah, it's just the nuance of an ever evolving problem. Like we've had this discussion over people putting the same kinds of cameras on traffic lights because we didn't want them to see us go across red lights, even though that's what they're there for. But then it's like, oh, but they can see my license plate. They can do this. They can do that. And it's just the format in which the conversation is held, really.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. I appreciate you chiming in. I think that was a great add to it. So thank you very
Thanks
much.
for having me.
Yeah,
Bye.
of course. Bye. Christian says, and I'm fair because I'll get to you in a second. Welcome to get off my lawn conservatism. Yeah, exactly. And where was it? I love Justin said the adventures of green hair and beardo. And I will say, Alex came on and I saw her name there. That's why I said it. To failed exorcism. I never say anybody's real name until you guys give me permission. Otherwise, I'll just go by your username there. But I'm glad you're in the chat as well here. But I think that's a fair point. Fergs on the TikTok chat, what's on your mind?
Yeah, so I remember, you can hear me, right?
Yep.
I'm on, okay, yeah. So I know I've mentioned it to you before. I serve as a local elected official on a board. I don't know if I should say whatever, it's on the county board.
I feel like you can say it. This is a formal location. It's fine. We're not FCC.
Right. Yeah. So they brought this up to us, I want to say it was a year ago. I don't know for sure if it was the actual Flock brand, but same thing. I can only assume it was the Flock. And I ended up, so the way it was presented to us, of course, on the board, they gave us a very small presentation where it was all, glitz and glamour and can only be used if there's a crime, and then they have to go back and look at it and whatever. Obviously, I voted for it at the time. Obviously hindsight's 2020. We didn't have all the information and scandalous things that were being used. We didn't have the information that can track your phone, your dogs, your whatever.
Absolutely.
So I mean, we had a very short presentation. Of course, it's more of a sales pitch than anything else. There was one member on the board who did raise these concerns of the constant surveillance state, and which I completely agree with. The way they presented it to us was it will only be used if there's a crime committed and they're looking for evidence or whatever. It could never be accessed or even viewed or anything else unless that happens. So I had thought about sending some emails out saying, hey, we're this again, like I said, hindsight's 2020. Maybe we should revisit this.
And you've probably heard me say it before, Fergus, but I'm very big on self-awareness leads to self-growth. I was very pro legalizing gambling until I saw what it did to so many people around the country. And then I'm like, you know what? I do enjoy the fact that I can do this, but in the middle of a cost of living crisis, this is probably going to do a whole hell of a lot more harm than good. And pivoted from there. I don't think that's a sign of
Absolutely.
weakness or anything. I think it's a sign of strength, to be perfectly frank. So, I mean,
Yeah,
I don't
no,
think anyone's holding that
and
against you.
yeah, and even to, same deal, different topic. I'm a hunter. I have lots of pew pew things.
Sure.
But I also understand that my hobby shouldn't isn't more important than a safe society. So
Sure.
I mean, like, so I get it.
Yeah. Hey, I
When
appreciate
you-
the insight.
So
Yeah.
cool. That's all I wanted to say was just about the flock camera things, at least on the county level. That it was all glitz and glamour. There's no downside, whatever. And then all of a sudden you start hearing these news stories, which you've been highlighting, and it's like hindsight's 2020. So
Absolutely. Hey, I appreciate it, man. And we're moving in the right direction now. You take it easy. We'll talk
you
soon.
got it. See ya.
Yeah. Jim says in the YouTube chat, good morning, Ben. I'm glad you felt the air was different at the end of the meeting. WBAY is reporting this morning that the council's stance hasn't changed. Oh, absolutely not. One of the older people up there was saying, oh, so should all the department stores take away their security cameras? And like they were using these straw man arguments. We're like, well, no, you dumbass. Like that's a private entity. If I don't like that I'm being recorded when I go somewhere, I can go buy my shit from somewhere else. That's not what was on our minds when we were there. They very much are dug in because fundamentally it's a cheaper way to surveil us all. For the record, I don't believe that a single person, even the most pro Flock people, even the sales rep from Flock, I don't think has nefarious intentions with the equipment. But they're not who I'm worried about. They're not who the 4 or 5 dozen other people that were there are worried about. It's the grander scheme of things. And not to get all conspiracy driven, but to be perfectly honest, this isn't a conspiracy. You can look it up for yourself. We're talking about the predictive surveilling going on in Minneapolis right now. I've told you this on the old show before. And they use this technology in our allies in the Middle East country to monitor Gazans and determine if they are going to be a problem before they've done anything. That's not what America is. And again, that's not a conspiracy. That's not anti Semitism. That's just what's happening with the same equipment. Flock and Palantir are partnered together. In other words, the company that quite literally decided to name themselves after the evil all-seeing eye from Lord of the Rings is sending Flock camera people around saying, I don't understand why you're so nervous about an all-seeing eye being put all over of our cities. Like, what the fuck? Like, we know what we're looking at. We know what we're looking at, and they can say it doesn't change, but I'm going to be frank with you. Much like with data centers, I think if you're running for office, and we'll be speaking with a potential congressperson at 10:30 today, and I will be asking him about these questions. If you're running for Congress and you don't have an attitude, an idea towards what you think Flock is, and again, you don't have to agree with me. That's fine. That's what the show's all about. I think you're wrong. I think I can provide enough facts to give people enough consternation to question what they are looking at. But they don't have to agree as a politician. But if you show up and say you haven't really thought about it, or you have some generic ass answer like, oh, yeah, we really got to look into regulations going forward. Affordability is a big issue. Like, that ain't going to cut it in 2026. I'm sorry. I think we really need to start making this a priority. And I recognize that this is coming from somebody that is not living paycheck to paycheck. And I realized that, and I'm not saying shelve affordability in the name of flock cameras. That is absolutely not what I am saying. But I'm saying this needs to be part of it. Much like how Francesca Hong has a plan for data centers, but also has a plan for healthcare and to do something about housing and the cost of living in this state. It's the same concept. If you're going to be representing areas where Oshkosh has had issues with flock cameras and they're coming down, Appleton is pursuing the same thing. By the way, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it to that one because I had to push my Milwaukee dental thing until today after the show. I got to get down there by 1. I might mess around down there for a couple hours. I don't know if I'll be back in time for 5:30 today. There is in Appleton City Hall, Town Hall, at 5:30 today. They're going to do something similar about the future of this surveillance and what it's going to look like in the city of Appleton. So if you're listening to me and you're inspired, and by the way, you do not have to live in Appleton to go to these kind of things. I do not live in Neenah. They're going to ask you your address, but the fact that all of these towns in the Fox cities kind of like mishmash on top of one another, that's they don't really talk about those kind of things. Um, and DSL, who's in the chat there, welcome, my friend, says at the price tag of 20K, don't forget. And that's big. And I say this in my personal circles. And if you're anti-flock and trying to convince people that it's not a good idea, stop taking the financial route. That's a stupid idea. They're actually way cheaper than police officers. Like, if anything, you should go up there and be like, so if we install all these cameras, can we fire like 70% of you? Because it seems like you're kind of useless without these cameras. Like, that would be the more appropriate fiscal approach to do this rather than being like, are you going to take 20 grand of my tax dollars? It's like, realistically, that's kind of a steal to be constantly surveilled all the time. So, like, the money is not the appropriate angle to take in this. I'm letting you know that right now. And I know DSL is anti being surveilled as well, just from he and I and our engagements in our personal lives. Um, but um, but yeah, the cost isn't the issue there. Not at all. I see I have a new person on the TikTok chat saying, do I have to live in the United States? Um, that would probably help. That would probably help. You should be in the Fox Valley. I'm not saying drive up here from Madison or something to do it, because then they can lean on astroturfing and are you getting paid by George Soros and blah 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 blah. Like, live in the Fox Valley, but like this ain't the time to be casual. There was one woman who was a little older who was there who said, I don't want to be in my 80s having my grandchildren ask me why I didn't do something to push back against a surveillance state, and me say it's because I didn't think it was that big of a deal at the time. We're being surveilled. You see in England the new punch your um driver's license or ID card into the internet in order to be able to access the fucking internet. They created an entirely free database of YouTube videos and informations, made us completely dependent on it, and said, okay, now the only way you're allowed to access any of this going forward is if we can monitor your every movement online at all times. You know what I mean? Like, it's happening everywhere. And you'll see conservatives say, oh, look at England and their liberal agenda and censoring anybody that has anything bad to say about immigrants. And then you look at liberals in America and say, look at MAGA, willing to create a hyper surveillance state all in the name of catching Mexicans. Realize how being anti-immigrant or pro-immigrant ultimately ends up getting spun into you championing for more surveillance? Are you noticing how the two sides of the same coin are utilizing the same touchstone issue in order to get you to champion being in favor of these kind of entities? Believe you me, if it were a liberal White House right now, It wouldn't be that we need flock cameras to catch immigrants. It would be that we need flock cameras to catch neo-Nazis, the people that go on the bridges in Florida doing the Zig Heils wearing masks and whatnot, the Proud Boys, the Three Percenters. They would still be telling you the same shit. It would just be a different population of people that ultimately is being targeted by the flock cameras. And I'm here to tell you right now, no matter who you think they are monitoring, it's there for you. It very simply is there for you. Mallory saying they can call me a Luddite. I don't care. Me too. I wear it as a badge of honor. I'm not even nervous about that. I don't take any insult to that whatsoever. Let's see. We got a couple of comments here. I think bringing up policing is so important. It's a lot of I watch, but these I don't. You don't watch me mindset. Yeah, like police officers push back against their own cameras. They want to be able to turn those off, but we all need to be constantly surveilled forever. Like that is absolutely something that needs to happen. And I see Cassandra saying, and I have a thought about this just based on the first 5 words. When I first read 1984 as a kid, it seemed so crazy that people would allow Big Brother to see them constantly. Makes sense now. When you live in a surveillance state, it's a whole other thing. And I maintain, Cassandra, there's a documentary called Room 243. It's 8 different directors talking about their interpretation of the Stanley Kubrick movie The Shining. And Room 243 was the room where like the sexy naked woman turns into like a zombie naked woman. We all know the room I'm talking about. There's a quote in that documentary where Jack Nicholson says, Kubrick said, you don't photograph. He said, I don't want to film the photograph. I want to film a photograph of what a happy family looks like. And that always resonated with me. And I often wonder, because people are like, has no one read 1984? I think it's exactly the opposite. I think people absolutely read 1984. They're just like, oh, well, fuck, we should just do that then. Like, this seems like a pretty easy way to do things. I see Jay Hilge saying it was an amazing documentary. How about the one, like there's a 10-minute segment where one guy thinks the whole thing was Kubrick's apology for faking the moon landing. And you're like, Ben, let's not get off the rails here. Watch the documentary. I'm not saying I bought it, but I'm saying like I walked out of it. I'm like, okay, I 35% believe that guy, and that's way too much of a percent to actually believe that guy. But nevertheless, but that's the principle. So when people make the 1984 comparisons, I don't think that that's happening by accident. I think you're seeing the powers that be take a photograph of what an authoritarian state should look like. And they're just doing it. And that kind of ties into what the second half of this hour was supposed to be like. But I'm glad to know that even in this new format, I'm not good at sticking to my times, not my out times. I'm not going anywhere. It's 2 straight hours of content. But that kind of ties into the concept. And you guys know I don't give a shit about the reflecting pool. I've been on that boat since the beginning. I don't give a single shit about the reflecting pool. But the audacity of the sitting president of the United States, excuse me, to sit there and say there's a 300-foot gash made at the bottom of the pool by vandalizers. And that's why what's happening is happening. They're implying that in this hyper-surveilled state, in the most watched city in America, in our nation's fucking capital, that there are not cameras on the reflecting pool, and these Antifa vandalists were able to carve a football field length gash in the pool to vandalize it. That's the kind of lie that is reminiscent of 1984, of a surveillance state, because he knows it's easily disprovable. The failing New York Times already has articles out saying this is all bullshit. that like everything he said is obviously bullshit. And, like obviously it was. No one listening to this show actually bought that. I hope. If you've made it this far into this program, if you're sticking with me off the radio, obviously none of us listening to this were actually buying into that rhetoric. But it's the act of the lie. It's quasi bullying. Elon Musk is currently threatening to sue people that are accusing him of causing starvation deaths as a result of his cuts to USAID. Who I spoke to, a friend of mine that graduated with me from Allegheny. She lost her job during those cuts and hasn't been particularly thrilled since. And I hope you're still listening, but you're going to be all right. We were talking this morning about it, ironically enough. He is threatening to sue Congressman Ro Khanna of California, who has been on Outside the Box before. And because he is accusing him of causing these deaths as a result of starvation. He quite literally tweeted, he being Elon Musk, we could be out having fun 4th of July weekend, but we decided that we're going to stay home. I'm paraphrasing here. I don't have the tweet in front of me because I can't access Twitter while I'm doing this right now with my current setup. But essentially saying, we're not going out this weekend. We're just messing shit up with Doge. Do you guys remember the video of him saying, yeah, we accidentally cut Ebola funding. That's our bad. But we put it right back. Look up how long it takes to put a plan like that back, and then go see if Ebola funding is back to what it was prior to that cut, even today, than compared to when Elon Musk said that back in March of 25. These are the kind of lies that make 1984 almost seem like a parody, because the fact that these people were comfortable enough to say these things and not worry about pushback. If Joe Biden said people snuck into somewhere in DC and cut a football field length gash in the pool and sabotaged it, we'd all say someone needs to get grandpa his meds, right? But Donald Trump says, and like, oh yeah, he says that shit. And then we just move on to the next thing. That's the 1984 of it all. And they say that in 1984, once you inundate us with information, it's hard to tell what's real and what's fake. ABC News was doing newscasts talking about how foreigners love America because of the World Cup. Travel anywhere and tell me if that's the case. Don't get me wrong, they should love America, because fundamentally, we do not hate other countries. The people of Iran don't hate us. They hate our government because we surround them with military bases and bomb the shit out of them. It's the same principle with Americans. Half of us didn't vote for Trump. 2/3 of us do not like Trump. Even some people that voted for him are like, yeah, I don't like him, but I voted for him. We are not Trump, no matter how much people try to put us in that box. Of course, people are going to come to the World Cup and be like, America kind of rocks, now that I think about it. A lot of us are pretty decent people. It's like we're shitty in the ways that all human beings are shitty, but we're decent people. We're no different than any other group. I did an interview with a Somali gentleman last week. He said he was talking about the Somali population in America, and he said, are there bad eggs in my community? Of course there are, but no more or less than any other community of people. It's like, exactly, but they keep us divided over this stupid bullcrap, and then they throw a bunch of flock cameras up while we're fighting about rainbow flags. I apologize. I'm 35 messages behind on TikTok, and I've fallen behind on the messages come a lot faster than they do on the whatever that old station's name was, text line. So I'm gonna have to get used to or get a better way, or maybe I'll start allowing some people to do mods and put some of the best comments up for me to kind of parse through as I'm doing it, because I just kind of ranted for 10 minutes now, and I feel like I'm so far behind that if I tried to read it and catch up, you guys would just see me staring here at blank screens for a while. Thank you for all the follows, and regardless of what platform you're listening to, if you haven't already, please subscribe to not just the platform you're on, but all of the platforms that I do this on, and we're only going to expand from here as this kind of becomes a little bit more official. There we go. So we're only going to be on more places. So find me where you can, because we're only expanding from here. But so that kind of caps off the first hour. What's Clear and Sober saying? Okay, let's see. Let's just read the last couple here. Clean and Sober says Musk's Doge is causing starvation deaths. Anthem by Ayn Rand is also a great read. Loved Fahrenheit 451. See, Susan, what's the word? Ayn Rand I don't know, could be more diametrically opposed to what I am as a human. Like, I would read that just because I appreciate understanding how all walks of life think, but I would never endorse those. Like, it's such bootstraps, rugged individualist shit that is just so thoroughly disproven by just decades of centuries of human history, in my opinion. Jim says, Sensei says, workers the world unite. My man, tell me about it. I used to think I was safe not being unionized. I used to say, I don't need to start a union because I trust where I work. Never fucking fall for that. Take my words. Bump, 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 bump. Go start a union. Jim says, as far as surveillance states, I have always felt that we are more of a world of Fahrenheit 451 and not 1984. Yeah, exactly. Oh, they're forced to verbally report their thoughts to the government and Anthem. There we go. And it's so funny, though, because you say that, and all walks of life are listening to me right now. There are conservatives listening to this, and they're saying, that's how I felt during COVID. And there's liberals and progressives listening right now saying, that's how I feel quite literally right now. And what none of us realize is that it's coming for all of us eventually. Which is probably a good pivot into the third segment, right at 10 a.m., Mother Hubbards. Looks like I'm getting good at the job now. One of the elements of surveillance that seems like it's going to be pretty aggressive if we don't start putting the right people in office. Excuse me. It's hard to talk for an hour straight without taking a break. Failed exorcism says unionize. We do the work. We have the power. Oh, buddy. You're preaching to the choir. I know you've listened to the show while you're doing your day job all the time. You know I'm one of the loudest voices, the pro-union voices ever. I'm right there with you. But yeah, so where I think we're headed in terms of surveillance, and this ties into what took place in New York yesterday, there are people, including our own representative Ron Tussler, who I would love to have on the program to discuss why it is exactly that he's in favor of some of the metrics that I'm about to be talking about right now, where basically any criticism of the IDF, Israel's actions in Lebanon or Gaza or anything like that, would be deemed to be a hate crime, criticizing it in general. Both Biden and Trump have cracked down on the protests, one much more aggressively than the other, surrounding what's going on in the Middle East, but both sides are more than happy to censor that element of speech. And it's a safe bet that if you're listening to this show, you probably have an opinion on that. A lot of Americans don't. If you're listening to me now, something tells me you probably do. And that's bipartisan. So the idea that one side is so uniquely pro-censorship while the other side is so interested in free speech, I hate to break it to you guys, that's not the case. And that was reflected in New York. Jar Manny saying Ron Tussler is a joke. He also posted yesterday that Donald Trump is the best president we've ever had in his comments. Yeah, he's a fucking dweeb. I never said that. I was never ordered not to say that, but he advertised at the place that I used to work, and uh I took it upon myself to specifically not ruffle those feathers because, silly me, I thought as long as I maintained a consistent advertiser schedule that the show would be safe. Um, Boy, howdy, did I learn that lesson, and I won't be making that same mistake twice. So I've been pulling my punches on that little munchkin, and I think it's about time we get into it. And by the way, he called Jarmani out on Facebook, like in the comments, trying to put her on blast, and she just absolutely ate him up, and it was awesome. Um, yeah, and DSL says Tussler also attended. That's what I was referencing. The America 250 Israel 78 party. Exactly. Tussler was the one that was there. He says, so in case anyone was confused about where his allegiances lie, there you go. And so in New York, hold on, I have all the names written down here because I wanted to make sure I did this the right way. Brad Lander, who was actually running for mayor and I think ended up coming in third or fourth in the uh, primary against Mamdani, who was essentially Mamdani light, got the Mamdani endorsement. He took out Dan Goldman, very pro-Israel, very high up in the Democratic ranks. Um, oh God, Daraliza Chevalier. She ended up winning her race as well, as did Claire Valdez. All three of those people are progressives, beating Democrats in New York City in a Democratic stronghold. Actual progressives, people standing up for America actually first, taxing the wealth, helping out people that are struggling to get by in this nation. Those people were doing clean sweeps. DSA candidates, Democratic Socialist of America candidates. If you guys haven't seen the polling, the GOP is polling at -11 favorability right now. The Democratic Party is polling at -4. DSA is polling at +17. I'm not saying that means you have to agree with their messaging. I'm saying that the status quo is officially dead. And if you're not willing to come through with um, truly transcendent ideas that are going to fundamentally change how people live their lives, you're going to lose. And I have done nothing but watch liberal media all morning in preparation of this segment because I wanted to see the reaction. Because if you guys haven't seen, there's um sorry, I'm getting text messages in my personal life. It kind of threw me off there. I need to remember to mute those when I do these. There is a clip of Sean Hannity that is going viral, where he almost his voice cracks while he's talking when the socialists win, and someone sent that video out there and said even Fox News Republicans get sad for Democrats when a true progressive comes out on top. And and I had to laugh at that. But so I was watching, Brad Lander is live on MSNBC right now. I obviously can't hear him. But, and we will, once I build out the studio, I'm going to have the capacity to literally, now that I'm a video element and it's not just audio, I'm going to be able to share the videos of the content that I'm talking about on this show. It's not going to be all be in your mind for much longer. You're actually going to be able to watch the shit as I do it. But, they have been in complete damage control, saying, I don't understand why people are acting like there's an internal conflict between the Democrats right now. It's a big tent party. Whoever wins, wins. We're happy no matter what, despite the constant efforts to kneecap anybody to the left of center in the Democratic Party all the way up until they end up winning. And then it's kumbaya time. Let's all get together because they know come 2028, if it's a Buttigieg or a Newsom or a whomever, they need to be able to pull the vote blue no matter who shit. And for the last year or so, progressives have absolutely taken over the Democratic Party. And there have been a lot of loud and frustrated voices online. And I genuinely believe that a lot of those sentiments stem specifically from the fact that a lot of people are winning based on the fact that they are not going to send our tax dollars to Israel anymore. They're not going to, they don't even forget about the conflict. They don't even want the dollars in terms of just the aid we give them. I personally, it's $3 billion a year. I'd rather we use it for Medicare for all and like doing shit for ourselves, since Israel already has that stuff, as does Iran. By the way, there's 47 out of 48 teams in the World Cup that have universal health care. You'll never guess who the one team is that doesn't have it. Waka waka. But you see the messaging surrounding money going over there. It's $3 billion a year. It's not going to break the bank, but you know what? People aren't looking at it that way because so many people are so pissed off at what's happening over there that they don't want to be affiliated at all anymore. And I hate that just from a I want the entire world to get along perspective, but I get that from a what did you expect perspective. It's just hitting me that I didn't send a link to the congressperson to be able to join at 10:30. So I apologize for this short interlude, as I might have to do a little housekeeping here live on the air. If you guys can all just stand by here. Does anybody want to? Here, hold on. Somebody bail me out. I'm posting the link in the chat right now. Somebody asked to be a guest, either here or on TikTok, and talk for like 3 minutes, preferably on YouTube, actually, so that I can use my phone in order to email this. Does anybody have any thoughts on what I'm talking about the victories in New York, what it means for the future of the Democratic Party, and ultimately, what does that mean for the future of Wisconsin politics? Will what took place in New York, is it replicable in Wisconsin? Because people always say, well, New York politics don't really carry over to Wisconsin. I don't know, man. If taxing the rich and affordable health care and housing and a society that cares for its people is left wing, well, then I don't really know what else I'd want to be. But I mean, that's just me, of course. Bear with me here, guys. I'm just gonna knock this out really quickly. And then we will be right. Oh, I'm not. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Alex. Good. Thank you. Bang. Do your thing, girl.
Alrighty. Well, I would like to talk about, and I'm so upset. I returned my library books yesterday. I read a great book talking about all the beginning union action in all of the states. And it had personal anecdotes from the workers themselves, and then also the effects that it had in the state after. I would like to bring it to West Virginia for a moment, actually, because if we're going to talk comparatively to New York and West Virginia, we're probably going to assume that Wisconsin's a little bit more like the latter than the former. If we didn't have West Virginia, we wouldn't have great stereotypes about country bumpkins. We wouldn't have moonshine, and we wouldn't have NASCAR. And I would like to take some time to talk about not the ways that we are different, but the ways that we are similar. Because NASCAR was originally used as a way for shiners to transport their cases through the mountains and evade the police. Rednecks who fought at the Battle of Blair Mountain, they were true in community and family and providing for one another. They were not concerned with, Joe Dirt type activities. And the word redneck to this day has been co-opted to mean something completely different. It doesn't anymore mean someone who has a wealth of agricultural knowledge and understands how to keep their neighbor safe in the winter, or how to keep everybody cool in the summer, how to plant a successful harvest and feed a community. Okay, we've been reduced to something that anybody from a city can look at a lifted truck and have some thoughts and opinions about it, but at the end of the day, that truck and trailer might be used to haul hay to a farm downstate that just suffered from a fire and lost everything. You know,
Sure.
there was a fire actually that happened in Calumet County last month. Was a family friend, and they were thankful that they didn't lose any of their animals, and it was just structural damage. But you have to think about, if you and your family were displaced by flooding, who is going to help you when you need heavy, big things moved? You're going to find people with trucks and trailers. What is better for a community? Forcing people to pay companies to come out and move these things, or asking the community members themselves to, hey, you got that 27-foot trailer? We got a couple of beds that we need to deliver and some bed frames. I'll give you gas money.
Sure.
That the whole rural community aspect, I think, is something that people forget about in like very massive city states. When you think New York, you think New York, you know? You're not thinking of all of the farms that exist in New York, which there is quite a bit outside of New York City and all of the boroughs. It's very, very rural out there.
It's Wisconsin with assholes.
It is Wisconsin with more assholes. Very, very elegant.
Yeah.
And I think that if we're going to look at a successful candidate run in Wisconsin for anyone who might be more left-leaning socialist ideals, we need to stop looking at the differences and we need to find the common ground, because I don't know someone like Francesca from Adam. I never met her. I think she's a lovely lady. I like a lot of her ideas. But at the end of the day, that's still my neighbor.
Sure.
We could disagree on so many things. I could be a raging conservative. And if she and her family needed help and she was literally next to me, I'm offering that help. And that was something I heard firsthand from 2 people at the meeting last night.
I mean, if you don't mind me saying, I don't know if you're married or if that's I don't know your life situation, but
Not yet.
Yeah, the boyfriend in your life straight up offered me mutual aid because my car's been rattling for like the last 3 months, and just completely unprovoked came up and offered it. Like, I have nothing to offer. He just
You
did
don't need
it.
to.
And right, and it's just like people take it for granted. They call you a sucker, and that is very Wisconsin, like that attitude. I mean, the positive side of it, not the sucker thing. Coming from a more urban area, they're like, wait, they're doing that, and there's no tit for tat, and it's just like, I think people who haven't experienced it take it for granted, or think maybe it's pie in the sky, and they don't realize that there's a lot of people just organically wired that way, that want to help. Most people aren't trying to live in a mansion. Like, that's the craziest part to me, is we all act like we can't do anything about this economic system, because if we did, then what would that do to the way that we generate money? Meanwhile, the majority of us, 3 out of 5 people, are living paycheck to paycheck, thinking one day it's just not going to work that way. And to me, it's like, what are you clinging to? Like, I don't need a mansion. Like, I'm in a 1-bedroom apartment as a single dude. I don't need much more space. I have all the stuff I need, and I'm relatively debt free. Like, you really don't need a lot out of life. And it seems like we attach ourselves to some kind of bigger pie in the sky idea that's out there, that, and this isn't even an indictment on anyone, you're probably not going to achieve it. And the mutual aid thing is a much more realistic path forward than anything like what we're doing right now in this economy. That's for sure.
Statistically, you're more likely to become disabled than a millionaire within the next 24 hours. So,
sure. There we go.
You know,
Alex,
that's something.
Thanks for bailing me out. I appreciate that very much.
No problem.
And
Have a good one.
Yeah, you take it easy. Good. I will hear from you again. And
Well.
Jay, yeah. Let's see. Sorry. Bang. Okay, there we go. She took care of it herself. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, people. All right. We're taught to always want more. What we have isn't good enough. That's because we've been propagandized to think that way since we were kids. Exactly. And I mean, I always, right? If you've listened to my radio show, I know Alex is new. There's a few new people here, and that's awesome. Thank you for finding the show and jumping on board with what we're doing. Tell your friends. But I'm an FDR style progressive. I believe that the economy was strongest when we taxed the rich at 70 to 91%. When stock buybacks were illegal, union strength was so strong, antitrust was enforced. State funds were applied to college in order to keep the cost of tuition low, so anybody who wanted to educate themselves and better themselves had the capacity to do so. Anybody that wanted to move forward and work with their hands still had the capacity to do that and make a living as well. Anytime I bring that up, most people either agree with me or hit me with what they believe is wham, Trump card. Oh, Ben, well, what you conveniently leave out of that entire conversation is that that was in the aftermath of World War II. And all of Europe and Russia and Asia and everywhere around the world was flattened. And the only game in town was America. So, yes, all those things were happening between 1945 and 1983, but you seem to be skimping out on one very important fact surrounding that era that probably does more to describe why the economy worked the way it did then than anything else. So, okay. So then let's think about this for a second. Then your claim then to the hypothetical person, anyone listening to me that maybe quietly was thinking that anytime I'd run down the list of what I believe is the future, the best economic system going forward, then what you're essentially telling me is then that the only way for the capitalist system that we know to work is a once in a lifetime moment where we are quite literally the only dog in town. If that happens, everybody gets to achieve the American dream, or at least has a fair shot in it. The second anyone else around the country has the capacity to generate and make goods at the same pace that we are, all of a sudden we all have to live in poverty. Well, we're most certainly not going to tax these people more. So everybody's just going to have to deal with not going to the doctor when you very obviously are sick. Like, what are we doing? What are we actually talking about right now? Like, that's what you think is the best economic system that can't possibly be benefited in any way? That to me is more status quo than anything. And I'd argue that's a more Republican sentiment in terms of literally not touching the tax rate or trying to get rid of it. That is more status quo to me than anything else. It's crazy. Brad Lander is still on MSNBC. That's why these progressives are winning in New York. And it's why Democrats are trying to convince you, nah, these guys are just like us. These progressives, these blue MAGA centrists, they're all the same. I don't know why we're acting like there's some kind of internal feud between the two. Nah, there is, because one side doesn't believe in the status quo anymore, of the Democratic Party, I mean, within the Democratic Party. And one side believes the status quo is fine, we just got to say nicer things to one another. Fuck that. Old Lib says he worked in upstate New York. The people were wonderful. Exactly. I talk shit on the people from Pittsburgh all the time. 95% of them are awesome people. They talk funny, but they're awesome people. Like everybody, but I'll tell you who has the worst people is Baltimore. Obviously, I'm being facetious. It's because I'm a Steelers fan. Like, we all have these ideas in our head about who we hate, who hates us, where sucks, where's great. People that have never stepped foot in a city talking about all the crime that's in the city. As Alex highlighted about the idea of rednecks and what they represented and what that actually means and how aggressively like pro-union and pro-worker they were and how we never would have gotten anywhere without them. And now it's an insult. Which I will never advocate. For those of you newer to the program, I spent about 4 years working with children and adults with special needs in my late teens and early 20s. I do not use the R slur ever, but I did come across a video of a guy justifying it, where he said, in the early 1900s, we didn't use the R slur at all. You know what word we used to describe the mentally disabled? Imbecile. And I was like, well, when you say it like that, apparently time does heal all wounds, doesn't it? Like I'm never gonna say it. I'm not justifying anyone that says it, but it's the same principle as redneck. Like, it is now an insult when in reality the rednecks are some of the most pro-worker, pro-union people that were out there, that were worker strength personified back in the day. And now when you call someone a redneck, it typically means something pretty negative. Serial killer clown says, I'm sorry, I need to like have a running list of which one of you guys tell me who you are behind the scenes, because I will forget, especially as the audience grows here. I've been over being nice for some time. Now I hurt people's feelings at the finer cocktail lounges in Sherwood. Yeah, I feel that. I get that. I always, because like I said, I grew up. The reason I mock Trump so much is I grew up with a circle of friends that if I if Donald Trump had to deal with how I grew up, with what the people said to me growing up that are my best friends still, let alone in that era, he would have never made it to adulthood. That's how I was raised. You'll hear me say it. You've probably heard me say it on the show before. I'll say something semi-vicious, and I'll just be like, so much for the tolerant left, like, because that's always the line from conservatives. I'm like, I don't know where this tolerant left bullshit came from. Kind of sounds like a liberal thing, if we're being honest. I am absolutely blue collar leftist. So, like, fuck out of here with that nonsense. All right, let's see here. I'm 4.5 minutes behind, but your rant about being an FDR progressive is why you should run for president. Well, you know what? I always said I couldn't run for office because you're not allowed to run for office and be on FCC airwaves. If enough of you guys said it, you might actually be able to convince me. Anna's telling me to coin the term blue collar leftist. I just might put it on a shirt. Would you guys buy it? Now I'm a capitalist again. That's how fast that happens. Oh yeah, I think I have heard the mashed potato story from Mary Trump, but it doesn't ring a bell. Um, Wait, what's comedian Doug Stanhope? What did I say? I don't even know what I said that was something a comedian says. Move to Calumet and run against Ron Tussler in 28. Okay, now a bunch of you guys are cheering for it. We'll see. I mean, what the hell else do I have going on? Yeah, we got a crook felon in the White House for FCC be damned. Yeah, I hear that. I hear that. Oh, on the R slur. Cool. Okay. Yeah, I'll tell you. It's I used to say that word all the time until I turned 20. Like with the first summer I worked at the camp, because they tell you it's a 2-week training. It was a summer camp for kids and adults with disabilities. And they tell you don't say the word. And the line that people use when you've never worked or been around or lived with somebody who has a disability, they always say, well, if they have that disability, it's not like they understand what you're saying anyway. So 2 weeks they tell you don't say it. And like, of course, it slips during the training and you say it here and there, and they're like, stop it, don't. You can't be saying that once the kids get into camp. And then the first time a kid comes into camp and you let it slip, and I remember like physically seeing the light leave their eyes, like they were looking at me smiling, and then I called one of my coworkers the R slur, and you saw them like get down. And I was like, oh, so I'm never gonna say that word again then. And like that was my moment. And like if you don't have that moment and you're like, oh, I just say it because I say a ton of shit. Yeah, totally. Like I said, I'll never police anybody's speech ever. I have a soft spot for the special needs community. But at the same, like, I'll, hammer you, but I'll never say cancel that person for saying it. My life experience lent itself towards looking at that situation a little differently. But yeah, excuse me, I need a sip. All right, Tom, just so you know, Congressman Brad Smith is going to pop on here in about 2 minutes. The shows do get archived on the tube of you, because I can't say it the regular way because TikTok's fucking stupid. It will be archived right after this show wraps up if you go to the lives tab. So if you live in the 6th Congressional District, this is one of the people. We spoke with Elizabeth Fitzgibbon, who is the Libertarian candidate for the 6th District a week and a half ago. That is also available on my YouTube page. Oh, son of a bitch. On my Tube of You page. But we love TikTok Shop. Everybody go to the TikTok Shop. I see Brad is backstage right now. I'm going to pull him up in a second. If you can't stick around for the next however the hell long we're talking, this will be available as soon as I wrap up on YouTube. It has to render. It takes like 10 minutes and then it'll go up there. And I keep saying Tube of You the correct way. I apologize. I'm new to this. I'm working on it, TikTok people. Goddamn. All right, add the stage. Brad Smith, 6th Congressional District. How are you, my friend?
Hey, Ben, I'm doing great. How about you?
Hold on. I have my volume on here down, or at least, or maybe you're muted. Can you talk
Can you
again?
hear me? Nope. Let's see. Can you hear me okay? How about
Is
now?
anybody else struggling to hear Brad other than me? I'm not personally hearing you, but I don't know if that's. I was able to hear Alex and everyone else. Oh yeah, your mic's muted. Hold on. Do I have control of that, or is that you? There we
Hey,
go.
Ben,
Yeah,
can you
there we
hear me
go.
okay?
Oh no, it's still muted. You can hear him, son of a bitch. What's happening right now?
Let me see. I'm going to quick switch my mic here.
Bear with me here, Brad. I apologize. I was able to hear all of my guests up until you hopped on here, and
Hey,
for
Ben,
some
can you hear me?
reason we're struggling to. I'm gonna mute you and unmute you on my end here. All right, try something there. No. Son of a gun. What could possibly be wrong right now? I just had Alex on a few moments ago, and it was working just fine.
All right, let me see if I
I
can set up
apologize for this. I'll tell you what. I'm gonna post a link in the comments along the side here on the video. Use that link and jump in again, and we'll see if it's just a matter of the link on my end. I'm gonna post this right here, and just use the link and follow the same process you just did. It should pop up in the comments right now if you see it there, and use that link. I apologize. I'm gonna kick you out of the studio here, and we will try this again. I apologize, guys. I have no idea why I can't hear him right now. I had no issues hearing anybody else, and it seems as though we have hit our first technical glitch of the new version of Outside the Box here. Brad says he hears me. We're good, Alex. We're gonna make this happen. Worst case scenario, I'll see if we can't get him on TikTok or something. We'll make something happen here.
Take two?
Hey, all right.
All right.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, I guarantee you that was on me somehow.
Any of the above. It's classic fun on computers, interwebs, all the stuff, right?
Yeah, this is day 2 of the new gig, but I appreciate you being the first introductory guest here on Outside the Box Unfiltered. So
All right,
yeah,
let's make it
thank
a
you.
good one. I'm
Yeah,
excited.
I'm excited to talk to you. I liked a lot about what I read about you here in
Thank you.
on your website and what's going on in the area. So first of all, how's the morning? Tell us about yourself. What's going on? Like, how are you? Tell us about your experience in Wisconsin.
Yeah. Good morning. A little wet so far, but it was good. I got my son, my youngest son, ran off to a exciting summer program where he's learning about architecture and being a veterinarian. So that was good. A little bit of the usual parental start to the day. other than that, yeah, my background. So I've lived in the 6th district pretty much my whole life. I only say pretty much because I lived in Stevens Point for during school years, and so it's right out just outside the 6th. But my family story is one that's been around the 6th for a long time. My grandparents were all dairy farmers out in the central and western part. We still have our original family farm up in Iola, Wisconsin. My parents started out. I was born in Larson, which is this little unincorporated T-junction just west of the Fox Valley. And then I grew up, graduated from Neenah High School, ended up serving in the National Guard to be able to pay for college, worked a lot of part-time jobs, including bike shops during all that time. So I have a deep love for the biking industry and all things mountain biking, gravel biking, bike packing, all that. And then for the last, 18 years now, I've lived in Ozaukee County, which is in the very far southeast corner of the district. So I've kind of dabbled in all bits of the 6th and all backgrounds.
Nice. I mean, that's I always say my friend group is very diversified for a similar reason there. And I think that's what makes the show what it is you hear from all types. You see, that's kind of been the theme of this hour. You get to meet all sorts of new people. And then all of a sudden you realize the people in the other areas aren't the enemy. It's just they live in a different area, and you have to move to other places to experience that.
Yeah, and man, I mean, the areas in Wisconsin has such different kind of subcultures too. You got everything from urban to suburban, like around here, to the more rural areas. And I mean, there's a lot of people who have common needs and I think goals if they can actually drop some of the bullshit and actually have discussions. There are some people who are going to viscerally disagree, but that's also, I mean, that's often productive, right? If you have people doing groupthink, how do you ever move forward, and how do you ever get new perspectives, right? I think that
absolutely
the trick is getting back to believing that actually having a sense of disagreement, productive discussion can be useful rather than automatically bad.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let's talk about diverse perspectives here. I'm sure you've had a busy morning. We basically dedicated the better part of the first hour of this program to my experience at the Neenah town hall yesterday for the flock cameras. And needless to say, there's some consternation surrounding those cameras, data centers, how those relate to the cameras, and that very much outside of affordability, which we will get into. This big tech and surveillance angle is on everybody's mind. So in a world where you come out of the primary, what's going to be your platform and how you intend to move us into the future, but in a way where people feel safe and not exploited?
Yeah, boy, I mean, that is absolutely one of the most common and frequent points of concern and discussion. Certainly I'm having everywhere, those two and the intersection of it. So there's no question we need a hell of a lot more regulation to protect normal people around all of this. When you look at flock cameras and the fact that people have done things like stalk partners and have no access controls whatsoever, that is a massive invasion of privacy risk. And so we need to have a lot more standards around, first of all, whether or not and if that technology makes sense and it should be allowed and where and why. But then especially who has access to it, and that should be aggressively controlled because it's a huge invasion of privacy, right? Depending on who is using it and whether or not there's actual controls and insights on that. The data center side, holy smokes. It's wild. So I live in Ozaukee County, and every time I drive north on 43, I'm going past, the giant construction site in Port. When I go west in Beaver Dam, there's a giant construction site there. And in my mind, you remember War of the Worlds, like when all of a sudden these giant spaceships come in?
Yeah.
It reminds me of that. And it's like spaceships from Planet Billionaire that are just plopping down in Wisconsin out of nowhere. Nobody's heard of it. Nobody sees them coming. And all of a sudden, boom, they show up and they're already being passed by local, municipalities. And there's so many ways that's being done poorly, and whether or not they even should move ahead. There's NDAs, so people don't have a chance to actually engage meaningfully and have their voice heard. There's no controls on water usage, what kind of impact they're going to have on the local environment. There's also concerns of passing on all the costs to ratepayers, like with the TIDs and the TIFs, the tax incentivized districts for these. They're billion-dollar companies. They don't need our, tax incentives to put these things in. In fact, they should be paying extraordinary multiples to come in, most likely, right? And then there's the fact that they're passing on potentially or trying to cost to ratepayers by shirking the bill. Name it, from the new power generation that's coming online when these things are sucking down a bunch of power. But there's also the question of even transmission lines like ATC and where they're going, blasting through Knowles Nelson, preserved lands, eminent domain concerns, and then specifically the cost of even the lines. So it's the Wild West, and it's a race state. So right now, I think it's very intentional that they're rushing as quickly as they can to extract as much as they can, because that's what businesses will do by default. So we need to be a hell of a lot more quick and aggressive on getting a lot of standards and hurdles in place that these can't move forward without people having a voice, knowing it's not going to harm our environment, our communities, and people's family budgets.
Yeah, and even there's so many elements to it. I have seen clips as recently as this morning of the sound that emanates in neighborhoods. If you didn't notice, I'm very anti-surveillance. I have my own questions about it from that perspective.
Right.
Why, in your estimation, and by the way, I don't have the audio anymore, so you're just going to have to take my word for it because it was saved on my file back wherever I used to work. There was a Microsoft attorney on the record saying once these things are built, it's really not even that much of an economic development at that point. It's like the jobs come with the building of the data center, but once it's built. And so I'm not really asking you to touch on any of those as much. I'm asking, what by your estimation do you think is causing so many people to be afraid to take this head on? Like, you seem to have thought about this quite a bit. On the gubernatorial side, Francesca Hong seems like the only one that has a data center plan. Why do so few people seem to want to take this on?
So I've spent we've been running and spending time with people of every stripe and background for 7 or more months now. I don't know how long it's been. I've had a lot of conversations, right? And I can tell you, to a person, even across the party lines, there's a lot of concern and frustration about these, which is good news, right? That's how we're actually going to get things done. But there's also a lot of questions and challenges where I have heard in conversations with businesses and even folks involved with our local economy, that some folks are seeing and saying that these data centers are one of the few reasons Wisconsin's economy is still growing. I don't have the data. I don't have the information on that. And I'm not sure where and how that all actually ties in. But I suspect, I think that creates a bit of a dynamic tension, and it's so fast and it's so charged of an issue, no pun intended, with all the power, but that it makes a lot of people kind of have paralysis, because it's like this giant freight train coming straight at you. But I care deeply about this area. I care about our people and our land, and first and foremost. And the question is, how do we balance those things, right? And I think that's where, again, having a dialogue, we have to get into it rapidly and make sure that we have hurdles so that we should all agree. Should families pay the bill for billionaires and billion-dollar companies? No. Should we damage our water resources, which is a unique thing that we have here in the Great Lakes and the wonderful state of Wisconsin? Absolutely not. So you got to start there and get moving damn fast. And then, there's probably some dialogue of, are there times where, how do we make sure our building trades and other folks who are supplying this economically, we consider their voice in the process too. But first, we got to protect our people and our environment. I think those are first principles we should be able to work up from.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. We're speaking with Brad Smith, 6th congressional district candidate, running against Glenn Grothman. Quite a few people in the chat saying he's kind of been gerrymandered in there the last couple of terms there. You're going to get a shot on a little bit more of a fair map. Do you feel that assuming you come out of this, of course, do you feel that kind of momentum?
Well, I have good news and bad news. We don't have a fair map on the congressional yet. The assembly and state levels were. So we're seeing great movement there. Congressional, we're still stuck with the same old gerrymandered crap. We are very likely to be getting a better map, hopefully in the future, if we make progress in our state house. So this is my plug, not Brad Smith. Vote and get involved in our state elections. Everyone. If there's one thing I can ask you to do, get involved in the gubernatorial, and no matter who comes out, vote like our lives depend on it. Also, back your assembly, back your state senate, because they are all important opportunities here. Because if we do that, data center, there's a bill that's waiting and ready to go by Jody Habush-Sinekin, one of our state senators who's an environmental lawyer. Covers out a lot of stuff. And then the other side of that is they can help us get more fair maps congressionally. So sorry, that was my diverting plug, but get involved. That's where the first step of the battle is going to be, and we have to close ranks hard. But even within the gerrymander district, I'll tell back, I actually feel maybe delusionally optimistic here because I'm seeing a really different time. I'm hearing different voices, and I am seeing more engagement across the spectrum than I ever have before because people are pissed. These aren't normal times, right? It feels like everything is becoming unglued, and Glenn Grothman is checked out. He isn't doing things to support even the constituents that he traditionally has voting for him. And that creates, I think, a massive opportunity. And as we talked about at the top, my background connects with, I think, a lot of different segments of our very kind of heterogeneous, unique district that has rural, it has suburban, it has even some urban almost in it. And so I think we have a really unique window here too.
Nice. Interesting stuff for sure. So let's talk about that things kind of falling apart element here. I moved to Wisconsin when the Democrats had a trifecta, and the reason a lot of people liked my show was because I meant nationally, not obviously
I was going to say,
statewide.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I've been here since 22. So, and I would do segments about affordability then, and Democrats at that point would tell you that's a conspiracy theory. We're coming out of a pandemic. Of course, prices are going to be high. Don't worry about it. The economy's fine. Then we had a mixed house. Nothing got done for 2 years. Now we have Republican control, and prices are actually going up specifically as a result of the decisions that are being made.
Yep.
We saw what happened in New York last night, or at least I saw. I don't know if you watched what was happening, but there is an element of true transformational economic change that people are looking for in their candidates right now. Do you think what happened in New York is replicable in Wisconsin? And what do you think the people of the 6th district economically need to see happen to own a home, afford college, pay off a debt, whatever it is?
Yeah. I do think it's ready. I think it would look different. So there's an aspect here of these are foundational needs where people are feeling that things are broken, and they're feeling it in multiple different directions. It's everything from, yes, gas right now, which is the most visible thing because there's literal numbers driving down the road showing you what it costs. And that is, cost for you to go to your job, right? And some people may not even be able to afford. I've heard stories of people having to cut back on like even sending their kids to summer programs to make sure they can still afford to drive to their job, right? That is really broken. Then you've got the cost of housing, and rent, which is going through the roof, and there's almost no protections. There's a bill going through, I think it just got maybe passed yesterday, that's actually attempting to make progress there. We're a bipartisan one on the federal level. But still, we're seeing people being priced out of communities where they can live near their work. And then we've also got things like the affordability and actually usability of healthcare, which is really hitting people because it's you have to be healthy to work, yet if you don't have access to healthcare through a job, you can be locked out of the system, right? And I've heard many stories of people who are really in a weird spot where they have to stay low enough income to be able to still afford the care that they need, but they want to work more. They want to move up into different roles, but they're almost, there's no steps to get there. So in saying that, I think the same formula of what we've seen in Mamdani and a lot of people with really progressive policies and goals does apply here. The only part that I would say is a little bit unique and different is we have a really different culture, right? Wisconsin in the Midwest has, a pretty strong bend of, yes, progressivism with people like fighting Bob LaFollette, an awesome history here. But we've also got classic, rural and other cultures that also say, hey, you work hard, you need to build for what you earn and get. And yes, you also take care of your communities. So how we approach it and how we message it, I think is the really sensitive part here. That maybe that part isn't identical, but the end goals of it, I think, do apply here equally.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And I mean, I'm probably not breaking any news to you. The GOP is uniquely unpopular right now. The war sucks.
right.
The GOP sucks. But there's the DNC polling in the negatives because people really need something to believe in right now. And I think you've got a lot of ideas. I'll tell you, to give you some frame of reference, how far everything has shifted in 2 years. I did this with the previous Democratic challenger
Oh,
in
nice.
the 6th
Yeah.
district 2 years ago. And I asked every candidate, what is your plan for healthcare? And every candidate fuddled around and then said, we got Obamacare. What are you talking about? And now here we are. And in your mind, beyond replacing the subsidies in Obamacare that no longer exist, that have only made it more expensive, it's not like it was affordable prior to that. So how do we kind of get back to something more reminiscent, or not reminiscent even? I made a joke before you came on. There's 48 teams in the World Cup. 47 of them have universal health care. So like,
Yeah.
how do
Isn't
we
that yeah.
reconcile that right now?
Yeah. Yeah, so I think we have to be aggressive in our vision, and I think again, if you actually talk to people and have real discussions, there is a hunger and eagerness for us to have, of universal, affordable healthcare for everybody, all citizens, right? And that should be the destination we get to. And so many other countries that are nowhere near our wealth do that for their people. And it's absurd to me that we're the richest country in the world, and yet we're, as you stated, one of the only countries without our citizenry having this kind of base foundational need met as a guarantee or a right. The tricky part is we also have the classic, like, don't tell me what to do. The government having your healthcare, they're going to scare you off. They had those stories in the 80s or 90s, it was, of there's grandmas on gurneys in the hallways in Canada, which, by the way, was bullshit. There was an ad man who shared that he created that story, right, as part of wanting to scare people away from it. But that being said, there is an element of people saying, hey, economic freedom, don't tell me what I have to get. So the things I would want to see is, yes, of course, get the subsidies back in place, because there's so many people who depend on it and it's been impactful for them. Then we need to really quickly allow Medicare and Medicaid to negotiate drug prices everywhere for all of it, to put more pressure on drug prices in the market so that we can actually afford more reasonably priced drugs, unlike $92,000 per month, I heard, for one retiree, literally, which is nuts. And then the other part is, the way we can get to that universal healthcare is either A, get a shitload of people into the power of Congress and everywhere else to pass votes, and or if we have to use a stepping stone approach, get a public option that is the open healthcare option, but still let people have their boutique, super expensive healthcare option that you can pay for if you want to. And then you can either buy that, or you can buy into this public option that has a wider pool that more people can get onto. And, one of the things I like to talk about there is, if we do that and it's actually good, competitive, and thorough, people still have optionality. They're not being forced onto something. You're not telling people what they can and can't do. But I will bet you anything we'll have this massive groundswell of everybody moving to it. And then you're practically there already, right? And people still have their liberty in the process. I think it's a really easy approach to then let people prove it out and show that it's a better option and it takes care of our communities.
There's definitely some interesting input. Justin says, love the realistic approach to getting us where we need, which is definitely a sentiment that's out there, a unique one at that. I keep repeating it because the people on TikTok can't see you. We'll get there. We're getting there. Speaking to Brad Smith, 6th Congressional District here in the state of Wisconsin. We only have a little bit of time left, but we do have to. I mean, there's the elephant in the room here, and I think we have to have this conversation.
Yeah.
The Israel-Palestine of it all, the relationship between Israel and us as a nation. We actually spent some time speaking about Ron Tussler in either at the end of last hour, beginning of this hour, having been on the America 250, Israel 78. There's a lot of frustration, even within the America First movement, around that partnership. Some of it founded in reality, some of it may be based in hate, but I think there's a lot of foundation for there to be some criticism. What does the future of that relationship look like from your end, were you to come away with the victory?
Yeah, I think, one, there's been way too much lobbying money and influence from organizations like AIPAC, right, that are having substantial behind the scenes influence and involvement, not to mention Benjamin Netanyahu building a close relationship with Donald Trump to convince him to do something that everybody knew was a bad idea, Iran. And so I think we have to get more aggressive on things like campaign finance. I have made a pledge, as a separate note, on a group called Take Back Congress. That's BAC Congress. I recommend everybody take a look at it. Tons of people running around the country to encourage, we would work together in pledges on overturning Citizens United in every way we can, making active stock trading illegal, putting limits on people going directly into lobbying after exiting Congress, to term limits, and also ethical standards for the Supreme Court. So I do think when we look at that, there's so much, I draw a lot of parallels between Benjamin Netanyahu also and Donald Trump. You know, they're doing these really aggressive things that are very unmoored from, I think, what is beneficial for their people and their community. And so the way that things have been waged in Gaza is awful. We should agree, first principles, no innocent people should ever be killed and harmed, especially intentionally. I think it's very likely that war crimes have gone on there, and we shouldn't be a party to that by supplying funds and munitions, right? So we have to hold a strong line when things are so far out of alignment with what I think our values and what is the right thing to do. And then similarly, again, we have to get some of the influence that's now, I think, shifted so far that allowed us to get into this war in Iran without a congressional approval vote, and also against the interest of our people with no clear outcome. And you're watching right now, there's actually a divide, I think, between Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu on what they want out of this conflict. And you keep seeing it happen where they're trying to put a cap on this idiotic war, only to have, you know, Israel not involved in and trying to keep proliferate this conflict, right? And so it's very high likelihood that the peace deal will continually be blown up because they're not aligned on the interest here. But I see far too much. We're getting into things we shouldn't be, and we're doing things that I think are against our values and things people would generally agree upon based on some of those influences, both dollars and political influence.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking to, I was 13 when 9/11 happened, and I said a part of what took me to the left was the anti-war sentiment of the time, and something that feels like it's been lacking from the Democratic Party lately. So I think I can tell just by the trend of all the chats I have in front of me that there's a lot of people in favor of the way you're framing it here, and something tells me that's probably in a bipartisan effort as well. Final moment. I always like ending my conversations this way with people. I ask all the questions that I want answers to, and you did a fantastic job. What's something I didn't touch on? Whether it just be, first of all, I mean, tell us your website, all that jazz. You can get all that in there. But I mean, just about about your campaign, your platform, something that I maybe overlooked that you think is the most important thing people hear.
Ooh, that's a really good question. I think the most important thing, I'm not a career politician. I have not been deep in the political sphere, including the party. So, I am running under the Democratic Party because my values align with what the Democratic Party talks about, right? Healthcare, caring for people, investing in our communities rather than stripping costs out and treating it like that. But I'm also far enough outside the system that sometimes there's been misconceptions of like, we're running a really strong campaign and we're getting grassroots momentum that like, oh, the Democratic Party is pushing this thing. Man, I have not even had an email with the DNC. I am so far like, man, we're like the outside edge here. And I'm doing this because I care about the values and I care about our people. And the general principles of this, I deeply agree with. And the party machinery is something that I'll have to navigate when the time comes, but I am not necessarily a product of this thing. I'm in it because I align with the values. And I think it's what our people here need to take care of our families. And I'm here for Wisconsin first. That's why I haven't been in politics before. Frankly, I thought it was boring and gross most of the time. Now I realize, hey, this is an acute moment. And if we don't have people stepping up to fight for our people first, what are we going to get out of it, right? And I think that's where the two-party system and a lot of the frustration and distrust comes in, is there's not enough people who aren't, dyed in the wool and brought up through, all the ranks, been a part of the party forever, where that can be beneficial if you understand how politics work. But why are you in it? What is your goal? So that is why I'm here. That is why whenever you hear me talk, you're going to hear me talk about things like healthcare, education and training, giving people livable wages and being able to afford a home, because that's what people need here in this district. And I also believe that we can build a big enough coalition of anybody who believes in that vision to get this thing done.
There we go. Brad Smith. And it's what? Brad Smith for Congress, right?
Oh, yes. I missed the plug. See?
Yeah,
BradSmithForCongress.com on the website, or you can find us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, your favorite general platforms, Brad Smith for Congress.
Wonderful stuff. Brad, this was introductory. By the way, I had probably 3 or 4 people specifically request that I get you on. So I mean, that they seem to like what you're about. I like what I'm hearing as well. I think there's a lot to be excited about. I appreciate you coming on, and I'm sure now I'm not beholden to any rules, so you can come back. Yeah.
All right, I love it, man.
Yeah.
Anytime you'll have me, I'd love to have chats. I think
Great.
yeah, apathy is the problem. We have to have dialogue. We have to have the discussion. So thank you for having me.
Sure thing. Thank you, man. I'm gonna boot you out now, but I'll be in touch. And thanks again.
All right, take care, Ben. Nice talking to you.
Bye. Yeah. I don't know if I hit the right button, but I click kick guest and it feels aggressive to kick a guest. You know what I mean? But what do I know? All right. That was a pretty good conversation. Here's the deal. Normally, like if that happened and we went till 10:58, I would just talk to you guys for another 15 minutes because I mean like what the fuck do I have to do? But today I have to go down to Milwaukee. I had to reschedule my checkup for my dental shit because it was supposed to be on Monday. And let's just say if I had to drive an hour and 45 minutes on Monday, I probably would have got into an accident. I was a bit distracted on Monday, you might be able to guess. So what we're going to do is I have an evening show. For those of you that were tuning in at 7, hoping to find it, I stayed at the flock camera thing till the end. So I didn't even start it until like 8 o'clock. So the goal is I don't think I'm gonna be able to go to the Appleton flock. So it should be starting at 7 p.m. today, assuming I don't go to the flock thing. And we can talk about the conversation we had. It'll be on all of the streaming services that it's on right now. And we can all just kind of have a dialogue together. And the night shows are way more interactive. I don't come with as much content. I kind of rely on you guys to keep the conversation rolling at nights. So anybody who has thoughts about the healthcare plan, thoughts on APAC, thoughts on Glenn Grothman, thoughts on gerrymandering, thoughts on anything that we talked about there today, come back at 7 p.m. and we'll all jump into it together and talk about what we liked and what we didn't like and go from there. You're welcome for setting it up. I appreciate all you guys for hanging out. Across all 3 platforms, we topped out over 160 people today. And that's just at one time, not counting people that were popping in and out. So this was an absolutely awesome time. I'll say it one more time before I click out. Whatever you're listening to me on, subscribe to that thing, follow me on that thing, and then go to the other places and do the same thing. Because that helps me as I'm trying to grow this and monetize and try and build an independent thing. That conversation was the loosest I've ever felt interviewing a politician because I'm not worried about whether or not I'm going to ruin the reputation of another company. Now it's just me. That feels nice. We're going to talk about this. Yeah, thank you, Alex. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. We'll be here at 7, and if not at 7, tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Everybody have a great evening or day, whatever the fuck.